You are in recording. Be noticed. Everything's on recording.
Where?
Me recording you. Lian, go ahead. Read your essay. You want me to read it for you?
I can read it.
Oh, thank you.
Okay,
No.
requested for Liam's.
Oh, okay. Oh, right.
Okay, read louder, please, so the recording can catch it.
We live on a planet that is filled with different societies, different philosophies, and different beliefs, and different qualities. Each person is unique in their own way, with different likes and dislikes, and their individuality makes them who they are. From the moment we are born, we enter a society where it is normal to conform and obey. From a very young age, we learn that if we do not obey, then we will suffer the consequences from these actions. People within civilization have a desire to be acknowledged and to belong, whether to a group or a family. This communal influence can change our thoughts, emotions, and even our behavior. Following orders is instrumental to the health and well-being of an individual and an organization. It is a very important skill to live a quality life and to have a well-being. An equally important skill to be a part of. An equally important skill to be a part of and form. That's pretty confusing. An equally important skill to be a part of and form a smooth functioning society.
I think you should be.
I did not
It's just
mean
a
to
fragment.
Put,
It's
I
okay.
didn't,
Yeah.
I didn't
Yeah,
mean to
yeah.
put the period there, probably.
Yeah.
Obedience is a natural human trait that has a huge impact on the way the society develops and functions. Obedience refers to the behavior that is respectful and mindful of rules, laws, authority, and to our God. It is of great quality. Without obedience, society cannot exist for even a day. We should be obedient to authorities, and especially our teachers and parents. Parents are our selfless friends. Therefore, it is our first duty to obey our parents. We should do what they want us to do, and avoid those things that they forbid us to do. We should follow them and respect them. It is our duty to make them happy and thankful in every way. The lives of great men teach us that they were good sons of their parents. If we follow our parents, then we can prosper in life. Similarly, we should also be obedient to our teachers because they are our well-wishers and want us to be better individuals. In the real world, obedience is a thing that depends on several other issues that are important to the present subject. When pain is included in the process of obedience, the whole subject becomes different. Obedience plays an important role in a student's life. Obedience begins at an infant age within the family until maturity. It helps keeping the social structures running smoothly. If everyone is obedient to key precepts, society keeps on running smoothly. It helps in stopping crimes. Okay, I don't know why I put the period there. Obedience to the law stops people from committing crimes.
That's a perfectly valid sentence. That's good.
Obedience is a very simple way of showing gratitude for great beliefs.
Great benefits, I think, either.
Obedience involves changing one's behavior due to influence by a person in authority. If you have a dog, you might have taken it to obedience school. Trainers help teach dogs obedience, obeying commands, and showing good behavior. Being obedient to the Lord's will has the capacity to more freely invite the Spirit into our lives, increase our faith and love in Christ, and help us learn to be the disciples that we strive to be. We will be able to learn and grow in the gospel. We will enjoy happiness and freedom in their purest forms.
Good job.
Well, he said it's a good job. I think it's a good job as well. Thank you. Well, how we do this, huh? We should take about 2 or 3 person to comment it because it's so many comments might take more time. So we're gonna just Anybody volunteer want to comment on Lian's poem? Lian's essay? Huh? Nobody?
So what? So a comment you could make would be something like, "I thought this was a good point that I hadn't thought of,"
Yeah.
or you could say, I really like the way he said this or that, or the way he, or it could be like, "Hey, I think it would be even better if." You can make a comment or a suggestion, right? Is that appropriate as well? So those are some examples of things that you can make comments on.
Suggestion is highly valued, and we want to improve our essay, right? So we're not afraid to talk about things need to be improved for sure.
I
So
have a question.
Yeah.
Sam, I think you did a really good job on this. But you mentioned a few times about like a functioning society, and I don't know. I'm just a little lost. Like other than like in a family when you're like obedient, I feel like the function of family would be better. But like, is that what you mean by society? Like, what do you mean by society?
Society is like, it can mean a lot of different things, like businesses, building, infrastructure, like literally anything. Because there's always a leader, and without a leader, everything is like, and you have to obey to a leader, and without a leader, everything is lost. In a society, like, for instance, we have a president, and that's the person at the top. There's different people who obey to different people, and it's like a line. That's what I meant by society.
does that make sense to you?
Yeah.
So I would, if I think it's really good, Liam. If you want to know my suggestions or ideas, I would say that you have a lot of ideas.
Yeah.
Almost too many ideas. I would say to improve this essay, what you would do is condense your ideas down,
Yeah.
and then give some more examples, because you gave a lot of kind of a big statement, but then you didn't back it up with examples. So like Nan was saying, you talked about good society, but what is a good society? How obedience helps us maintain a good society? How?
Yeah.
You know, obedience. Without obedience, society cannot exist for a day. In what way? You know, if you have a dog, you might have. This is almost there. This part. If you have a dog, you might take it to obedience school. Trainers help dogs, teach dogs obedience, obeying commands, and showing good behavior. Why is that? Why? Like what's an example of that, and why is it better for the dog and the master of the dog? So you could give an example and say, for instance, if your dog is obedient to your command to sit or to wait or to not go in the street, then the dog is protected. So you can take the statement that you've had and then give some examples to back that statement up. So that would be my main suggestion. And because you have so many ideas, what you could do is you can condense a few of them down, because it's all true. I agree. I agree with it. But if you give some more specific examples to less ideas, it'll even be more clear, right?
Yeah.
Because this is such a big topic, right? Obedience is such a big topic, you can take it from a million different angles. There's a lot of ways you can talk about obedience. So you have to kind of, when you're writing an essay, you want to really narrow down, what am I specifically trying to say?
Yeah. I think we're a good point. The essay, if you read in general, it's good essay for the beginner. You did a tremendous job.
Yeah,
you know, it's tremendous expressive, and your expressiveness is amazing. You know, just like any beginners, we need to tune and polish and learn to consolidate them, right? So our thoughts, our expressiveness, and I see the little bit awkwardness in trying to write officially, formally, at the same time have not yet get there, right? So there's always awkwardness in it. I would, for essay write, for clarity, just stay your level and express your thoughts in succinct ways. You know, don't overdo it, don't over formalize it. Just plainly state, express clearly what you want to express, so people don't get confused with what you try to convey. I can read the sentence. I don't know what you want to talk about. Is the way you express it need to be not succinct or concise or clear enough. So rest and take joy in where your season is. You know. So the second is you got so many ideas. I don't see it jumbled together. It doesn't seem disorganized. That you might want to next time. Who is your group leader? Who is working with you on your essay? Okay, there you go. So, help to discuss those things. Say, hey, can we consolidate those things together or categorize them together? Make sense to you? For example, let me give you a vivid example. If you have a dog, it's a separate paragraph, right? Almost you want to narrow down to talk about the dog need to train to be obedient. But it's until for multiple other occasions require obedience.
Yeah.
So why that was set out? It wasn't not just an item in that group listing, so there must be some identifier thing for you to notice that when worth is set up to be a separate paragraph and others will learn more, or maybe it's just one of the point, on the list of example require obedience. It's things, when I'm your age, I can write like you are writing. My thoughts all jumbled together. Anything related to the topic, I'm going to try to write it out, right? But that's not always helpful. So with your brother's help, others' help, your parents' help, you can consolidate them, simplify them, and become more clear and expressive with things. Isaiah, can you comment on his essay today? Are you ready? How you helped? I want to hear. Excuse me.
I think you have an overall idea of what you're trying to convey, and I feel like there's almost, you're kind of saying the same thing, but using different examples to say it. So, for instance, obedience is good. If you have a dog, you take him to obedience school, they obey, whatever. If you go to a job, you obey. I mean, at the household, you need to obey. You're using all these different examples, but it's just kind of saying the same thing. So I would either say you need to have something to back up what you're saying, or you just need to narrow in, because it's almost repetitive when you kind of just say, obedience is good because when you obey your parents, the household works. Obedience is good because when you obey at a business, the business works. So that would be one of my things to recommend is, and I even told you this when I was grading it, is just kind of narrow in and try to not be as repetitive. And then my last thing would be, some sentences are just a little too wordy. It feels like you're really, really trying to get like nice vocabulary words in there, which is good, but sometimes it just kind of comes off as trying too hard. So that would be the only other thing. But otherwise,
Let's give you a narrow down. I think that's wonderful because it's impact your writing style. Yeah, so eventually impair the power and the skill in communication, right? So people don't want to hear a lot of things repeated, but the point is the same point. It's almost like people's mind are gonna turn off with that. So it's reading the same thing. So want to make sure we got a point to get across, then move on, either in depth or the next subject matter. Making sense to you? So you don't like people talk to you, you already get it, you have to do it again and again as if you don't get it, right? So you don't like that kind of communication, right? So then you don't want the thing to be scattered, don't highlight the thing you really want to convey, so just because they are there doesn't mean we have to see it, so make sense to you, so for example, I look and I saw. Just use the word. I saw. That's good enough. I don't have to say I looked. So when I saw, obviously implied I already looked. So if I don't look, can I see anything? So you don't have to see it. Just simple word. It's a skill of writing, expressiveness. For example, the first sentence is how this a problem. Could problem. It's not a problem. Anybody has a problem. So learn to write it. Let's narrow down. Go with me. We live on a planet that is filled with a different society, different philosophy, different beliefs, and different what? Qualities. Now, that is not one category of different things. Society, philosophies, beliefs, it's not qualities. Qualities is a quality to describe something. Societies, philosophy, beliefs should give you adequate enough what you try to express, all right? You don't have to add different qualities. Because qualities is related to society quality, philosophy quality, life quality, but it's not going to pair with society, philosophy, and beliefs itself. It's different category, so sounds right, but we were thinking about it. I don't think it's really smoothly or well expressed enough. It's redundant, basically, in this. That's my point. So one of the greatest skill learn essay writing is to learn to be concise and precise. Can you guys write that two words? Concise and precise. Concise and precise. Revision of essay is needed. Is actually to to narrow down your thoughts, to precisely express what you to express what is in a very concise way.
Concise is
Go ahead.
like short, to the point, and precise is specific. Yeah?
Yes. Concise and precise. People get exactly what we want to talk about in a very concise way. Essay writing is not storytelling. So you need to get your point succinctly, you might want to use that word, succinctly get it jotted down rather than become verbal. So that's my preference, Third time to write a prose ever. You want to write a beautiful prose, you want to elaborate with the adjectives, you want to talk exactly different type of writing. So am I making sense to you?
Prose is like description or like something in a novel, something like that.
Yeah. In the flowers red, that's essay writing. The rose red, essay writing. You don't need to add a lot. Yes, that's it. But you want to write the rose in the summer, you write a song on a poem on a prose. You can't just say, hey, the rose is red. That's it. But write an essay, better say the rose is red, the more. But you write prose, you want to talk about the garden, talk about the weather, talk about your observation, your experience with the rose, its smell, all kinds of things can be elaborated on it, so making sense to you. So you can talk about that whole absorbing experience that you encounter a beautiful rose. But when you write an essay, you want to highlight it. I don't want to talk about the smell. I don't want to talk about weather. I don't want to talk about my personal. I just want my hearer, the one I want to know, that I try to tell you, I pay attention to the color of this flower. And get that, then I got my point across, then move on to other. Making sense to you? So there's different purposes writing. Now those are newcomers or beginner writing, oftentimes have to learn to master. Okay, so experienced writer will naturally adopt it. So go ahead, brother. Yeah. So just it's kind of a skill set for essay writing.
I'll give some general thoughts
Yeah.
about essay writing.
Great.
My limited
Great.
ideas.
Great. But this is a wonderful essay.
Yep, good job.
Noah should give you 8.5. He's trying to encourage you. I want to encourage you as well. For your age, to write this along and to express so many thoughts, and as much your brother said try harder, I see you try hard as well. But there's a quotation, right? It's a quote. Really, you try to improve yourself, try to master a better language skill sets. And you should continue to do that, so improve your language skills. So yeah, don't stop trying, okay? So you head in the right direction. So yeah, that's all I got. Okay, let's move on. Is that okay? So okay, we're gonna reserve young lady for last. We're gonna have a Benjamin to read for us. Yeah.
Me neither.
Okay, while you're doing that, well, Hannah, while you do it, no, you go forward. Read your essay.
You want me to read mine?
Yes, yes, yeah.
Okay.
Next time, make sure your guys' essay being shared properly. Okay, so yeah,
So, are you mine now?
yes.
Go ahead.
Okay. What do a prisoner, a toddler, and a puppy all have in common? They all struggle with obedience. In this essay, we will examine the importance of obedience. Obedience keeps us safe, reminds us to be humble, and is important to God. A life which demonstrates obedience is guarded from danger, leaves less place for pride, and honors God. Let's look at some thoughts about obedience in the next few paragraphs. First, obedience keeps us safe. Sometimes when you are told to respect limits and boundaries, you feel like you're being trapped, but you are actually being protected. This is a simple example. A child is about to run to the street to catch his ball that is rolling away. His mother sees him and calls to him, telling him to stop because running into the street is dangerous. If he listens and obeys, this will keep him safe. He may not have been able to see or hear a car, but his mother could see further down the road. His choice to obey comes from trust in his mother. Obedience is important because it's practiced being humble. When the time comes to obey, humility often makes it possible. After an honest assessment of one's heart, we realize we don't always know what's best. The child in the example in the last paragraph would have to say no to the thought that he would be aware of any danger in the road. Listening to his mother would require humility. If the child is prideful, he would disobey because he thinks he could see for himself. We should be humble and trust that our parents, teachers, superiors, or God know better than we do. Obedience is practiced walking in humility. The Bible says, "Humble yourselves before the Lord, and he will lift you up." We should accept instruction, throw away any and all pride, and obey. And finally, obedience is important to God. In 1 Samuel 15, we read that obedience is more important to God than sacrifice. When we choose to obey and give up our will, that itself is a sacrifice, and it is pleasing to God. He wants us to willingly obey him without doubting or arguing, but with humility, trust, and faith. When Jesus was teaching his disciples, he said, "Loving me empowers you to obey my commands." Obedience comes from love. God is love. Obedience to God shows that we value what is important to him. The importance of obedience is evident when you're able to take time to think about the results of this practice. We become shielded from danger and pride as we walk in God's way of obedience.
Wow, that is so impressive. Let's see. Yeah, your dad is, you know how to praise you.
No one claps for anybody. I
Good.
clap for Leah.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, so good clap there. Leanne did. So, see? Okay, great essay. Oh, so this 9.5, I think 5 is because of coloring. Yeah, I think a lot of work. So. Well, I'm gonna read your essay today. So I think it's a good one, because we're not writing essay merely to what to just write an essay. So we want to learn the rounded truth about the theme we're talking about. Okay, so and this is a good one. So we have a lot of good points to learn. So. Let's hope someday we can have discussions about topics, talk about the same topic rather than just express the thoughts, rather learn the true lesson in life. So that's the purpose for this class, learn life lesson together. Okay, so let's Ben read it for us. It's a wonderful essay because really teaches some very simple and powerful truths to us. Go ahead. Mm-hmm.
What am I doing? Mm-hmm. I'm reading it again?
Yeah.
Okay. Make sure.
Read it better.
What do a prisoner, a toddler, and a puppy all have in common? They all struggle with obedience. In this essay, we'll examine the importance of obedience. Obedience keeps us safe, reminds us to be humble, and is important to God. A life which demonstrates obedience is guarded from danger, leaves less place for pride, and honors God. Let's look at some thoughts about obedience in the next few paragraphs. First, obedience keeps us safe. Sometimes, when you're told to respect limits and boundaries, you may feel you are being trapped, but you are actually being protected. This is a simple example. A child is about to run into the street to catch a ball that is rolling away. His mother sees him and calls to him, telling him to stop because running into the street is dangerous. If he listens and obeys, this will keep him safe. He may not have been able to see or hear a car, but his mother could see further down the road. His choice to obey comes from trust in his mother. Obedience is important because it is practiced being humble. When the time comes to obey, humility often makes it possible. After an honest assessment of one's heart, we realize we don't always know what's best. The child in the example in the last paragraph would have to say no to the thought that he would be aware of any danger in the road. Listening to his mother would require humility. If the child is prideful, he would disobey because he thinks he could see for himself. We should be humble and trust that our parents, teachers, superiors, or God know better than we do. Obedience is practice walking in humility.
Now that's not always the case. Most cases we say should that. Yeah, qualify a little bit like that. Hannah, yeah. Sometimes you have a foolish teacher like me, tell me things I'm not supposed to do, so forget about it. So. Yeah. Your dad is very serious. So. Good.
The Bible says, humble yourselves before the Lord and he will lift you up. James 4:10.
James 4:10.
We should accept instruction, throw away any and all pride, and obey.
Yes.
Finally, obedience is important to God. In 1 Samuel 15, we read that obedience is more important to God than sacrifice.
Then sacrifice, huh?
When we choose to obey and give up our will, that itself is a sacrifice. And it is pleasing to God. He wants us to willingly obey him without doubting or arguing, but with humility, trust, and faith.
There you go.
When Jesus was teaching his disciples, he said, "Loving me empowers you to obey my commands." John 14:15. Obedience comes from love. God is love. Obedience to God shows that we value what is important to him. The importance of obedience is evident when you're able to take time to think about the results of its practice. We become shielded from danger and pride as we walk in God's way of obedience.
Yes, so obedience came from a humble heart and a trusting heart. Depends on who we obey. Right? In this case, if it's God, we're not merely trust him in his authority, his all knowledge, all knowing, and all good heart was us. Also because we know he loves us, he cares about us, and we love him, right? Therefore we want to obey. So in essence, you draw a lot of very profound topic here, words to further expound, I think, highlight is that obedience has to be built on love and trust. And unless you have a love, trust, and intimate relationship, then most likely cannot be imposed or compelled upon. Making sense to you, rather through experiential, personal relations and kind of things, so build up on it, then you can trust. Right? So, so my point is not trying to discuss essay really like the things you express. You touch some serious, profound essence of what a godly obedience look like. So yeah. Now comments. Your dad is biased.
I would rate it lower.
Yeah. So. Lower.
No, it's really good.
Yeah.
So here's my idea when it comes to this essay writing stuff, guys. And I don't have to talk to
You're good.
Emmanuel about it, so if I'm wrong, he'll tell me. But there's two elements of this essay, right? The one element is like what he expressed, like thinking about it, really kind of understanding and pulling out good information, taking time to think and express yourself, right? That's one piece. The second piece is being able to organize it and write it out in a way that the structure, the mechanics of how you take your thoughts and ideas and make them concise and precise and put them on the page. And those two things, when you can put them together, they become a really good essay. So I would say that almost everybody in here, if they take the time to put in the effort, are going to have some good ideas and good thoughts. The mechanics of putting it together is going to be challenging, and it'll be a process. But we all have like Brother was saying, there's a lot to learn, and it's going to take some time. So if we want to get into that part, just so everyone can improve every time, there's always going to be a lot of elements that we can improve in that regard. And what happens is if you improve your mechanics of the writing of the essay, the organization, the conciseness and preciseness,
Mhm.
then your ideas are going to be more clear and they're going to have more punch. You know, when you read someone like, I can't even think of somebody, but there are
Like me.
When you read someone like Brother Amanda.
Just no.
Anyway, so what Hannah did really well here is she
Precise,
She
huh?
took,
Yeah.
well, she took. So I was gonna. I don't. You guys can't see this. You might want to look at this for a second. This is how I would write an essay. I would find the topic, obedience, and then I'd brainstorm a bunch of ideas. Like, what do I want to talk about? Obedience is important to society, and obedience is list a bunch of ideas, and then find the ones that really resonate with you the most, or that you feel like you have the best idea to. And then you take your idea. So let's say, you're like, this is the idea that I want to do, and then you have supporting arguments, and you explain why. Explain why this idea is the right one, using this. Now, so what Hannah did, I would argue that she, in this one, she has 3 ideas that she talks about. She talks about obedience keeping us safe, obedience being important because it's a practice in humility, and it's important to God. However, those 3 ideas, like, what is the bigger picture? What are you trying to say? Like, what's the bigger picture of your essay? So an essay, this is a weak sentence. Let's look at some thoughts about obedience. That's just very vague. So what I would say to improve the essay would be like, let's look at a biblical perspective of obedience, because that's what you've outlined here. You've said your whole essay is talking about from a biblical or someone who desires to walk with God. Why should I care about obedience? And then you're explaining why. So in that, instead of ending your thing with let's talk about some thoughts of obedience, you can say, let's look at what the Bible says, or why it's important to God for us to be obedient, right? And then you have some really good ideas, but sometimes you throw out some little scattered thoughts that don't relate directly. So for instance, so you talk about obedience keeping us safe, right? That's the first paragraph, the first main paragraph. Obedience keeps us safe. That's good and correct. And then at the end you say, his choice to obey comes from trust in his mother. That's a new idea. That's correct and good and important. However, it's a brand new idea to talk about trust in regard to obedience. Because previously you were talking about obedience keeping us safe. So maybe if you were to rewrite the essay, you would say, the trust part in the mother, that's an important element. Maybe I need to restructure this so that that's not just kind of, you mentioned that, but it's just kind of this, it assumes a lot of, on the reader's part, it assumes a lot of things from the reader. So part of the essay, again, is being precise and not just making, so anyway, I'm being overly,
That's good.
I'm being overly analytical, but I think it's important because the more we work on this stuff, the more you can really, everyone's going to have a lot to improve on. And it's really good. I'm not saying it's not good, it's really good. But I'm just saying, if any of y'all's essays, if I say a bunch of stuff like this, it's just because there's so much room for us to grow in it. And I think it's cool, it's exciting.
Yeah.
The most important element is the first part, though, is taking time to think about it. You're not gonna, a bad essay is only a bad essay in this class, I think, if you don't take time and effort, right?
Yeah. Why not you take time next time, brother? Half the time get you to give us some. Not this. Next time we're gonna do poetry. That's right. But you can request a time to see maybe broader topic like how to write an essay. So it would be great. So and prepare a time for them to learn how to do the essay writing. How many have learned essay writing so far? I think most like you guys already have some basic idea, right? So you guys have some writing class going on, right?
I mean, this is my first essay, but
Your first essay, yeah. Okay, that's great. Yeah, so you need to learn something.
Which is why
good.
everybody, like I said, any comments are going to be just because improve. Why do you think like obviously the thinking about something and coming up with good ideas is good, but why would it be important for us to work on essay writing per se in a more mechanical sense? Like why should we care? Like what does it matter?
Yeah.
I would say it matters because it gives you the toolbox to be able to speak to people in a way that is, again, concise and precise. If you practice on the page, you develop your speech to be able to, it's not about arguing, in Justin's class where we're talking about some debate and things like that, it's not about necessarily arguing a point, but it is. An essay is, you're trying to express yourself and kind of convince someone else that this is it. You're not going to write an essay about something you don't believe, right?
Yeah.
Unless you're doing some weird exercise.
Yeah.
You're writing an essay to try to convince someone else, like, this is why I believe this, and this is why, and therefore I want to show you my point of view as clearly as possible. And that's a really valuable skill throughout your whole life,
Yeah.
no matter what you do, even if you're not directly writing an essay. Does
Yeah.
that make sense?
Yeah.
Like Justin was saying, like, if you can learn to debate, you can learn all these good things in the future. It's the same idea. It's like taking your thoughts when they're all a big jumble in your head and starting to like filter them down
Mm-hmm.
is a valuable skill. So
Yeah. It's definitely valuable. Writing good essay always needed, to command the audience or convey a point, convey a point with you. So, but we have about 9 minutes left. So Benji, is that okay for you to read it and comment further on your essay? Yeah. Yeah, I think I have it. Yeah.
I have it.
Yeah.
Okay. Obedience, Benjamin.
Mhm.
When the expectations are for you to obey,
Mhm.
what does that mean to you? When it comes to something like obedience, the three things to take into consideration are: who is asking? What are they asking of me?
Yeah.
And am I willing?
Yes.
Just like any other thing we need to learn to grow in maturity, obedience is not always easily mastered. It takes practice. And eventually, if you are persistent with the way you practice obedience and want to continue to grow in it,
Mhm.
you will begin to find true appreciation for it, as well as be able to see the honorable entrustment given to you by
Mhm.
those who trust you to obey what they have asked. Obedience should not be taken merely as an expectation, but more as a responsibility.
Huh.
A foolish heart willingly disobeys, and a naive heart disobeys from a lack of understanding. If you do not understand, ask, and be able to take corrections from those who know better. Don't be one who willingly gives up on something as important as obedience, for whatever reason. Finding the right mindset is crucial to beginning to know what obedience even is. How can something as simple sounding as obedience be so complicated?
Interesting. I want to ask a question myself. So.
To listen and to obey is a beautiful thing, but on some occasions it can be hard.
Yeah.
For example, when the Lord asks of us, sometimes obeying what He says may seem like a lot for our human minds to understand. Why He said what He did, or even how we could even accomplish what He asked.
Mm.
But really, He is the way to know how. We must be able to leave our self-doubt and feeling of uncomfort behind. God knows much better than us, and if He asks of you to do something, He knows you are able, so seek Him first. So then, why, when we have all this in our hearts, is it still hard? That's wrong. Whether it's your parents, your teachers, or even the Lord, having a righteous way.
You have not done anything on this essay, I'm telling you. So you can come back to end your essay. Okay, so.
It is unfinished.
Yeah. It's a lot of spelling sometimes. Yeah. Capitalization, those are distracted. So. Yeah.
Having a righteous way of obedience towards anyone is not pleasing to the enemy. He will never stop trying to make it hard for those who are practicing obedience in the right way. Something that is not new, especially in the right mind, is to take in the bigger picture. Ask yourself and be mindful of what would happen if you disobey. Like the dishonor you would bring to those who have even honored you by asking you specifically, or the bad example it would be for those in your life. There are many consequences to disobedience, but many benefits to obedience. So keep in mind the bigger picture and be able to lay your feelings and desires down. When you even consider abandoning this entrustment that was given to you, it's not worth it to always seek to live the easy way and without discipline. You don't want to let one bit of leaven spoil the whole batch of bread, as they say.
Mm.
Things can even be disguised, evil for innocent, to trick you. It might be in the smallest things, so be careful in the decisions you make. Ask the Lord for discernment, because even though there are things that are against you, He is for you.
That's very good essay. Yeah. Ben comment on it. So, yeah.
Who, me?
Yeah.
Oh, did anyone else gonna comment?
I want you to comment. I want to borrow your mind. So, yeah. It's okay. Yeah.
I really understood everything he said. It was very interesting.
You understand what he said? What's he saying? Okay. Yeah.
So what's the main thought or idea there?
That's very smart. Yeah. I like that answer. Yeah.
Just obedience.
Oh, okay.
What about obedience?
Uh-huh.
You should practice it and
Why?
fully understand.
These are the questions. A good essay is gonna when someone starts asking you questions, you should walk away very clearly like, oh, they were saying this and this is how they
It's what
said.
God wants you to do.
Okay.
You know, it's like there's a bunch of verses on it.
Okay. Anyone else have any thoughts? Questions, ideas? So I would say again, the first sentence is when the expectations are for you to obey, what does that mean to you? So it's kind of an open-ended question. What does obedience mean to you?
Mm-hmm.
And then you're basically saying this is what obedience means to me. Or what's your how are we introducing? Obviously the topic is obedience, but you're kind of saying throughout that again it's kind of like what is the biblical like what does God say about obedience? Kind of what you're saying, right? Or why is it valuable to? It's a similar overall idea of Hannah's, but it's not. But again, it's the overall main subject isn't super precise, right? Really, Manuel's word is like we can't really boil it down to obedience. Well, I guess we can boil it down to obedience being a responsibility.
I think one of the things, this is such a broad topic. It's good
And that makes it hard.
to categorize obedience self because it's not always talking about the same.
What is obedience? Yeah.
Same thing, right? So obey to a teacher or a parent is different than obedience to a situation. Obedience to a law different than obedience to a person. So those kind of category you need to identify. Give a little bit of identification. But yours, I think, would be helpful, Benji, is because you're talking about more of how to practice obedience. So narrow down, said there's so many things to talk about. I want to talk about on this aspect. So because that's easy, quickly fall into a right, guide your audience into the right. Oh, this is what Benji really talking about. Highlight this. Go ahead. I'm just thinking. So yeah.
Liam's essay was kind of the idea was obedience is important because like if people don't do it, everything just falls apart. Right? That's kind of the main idea there. Hannah's was like let's give some examples of some kind of biblical ideas and examples of why obedience is important. And Benji's is kind of like the innate kind of motivation, the desire to be obedient. How should you receive it? So they all have but they all three are correct as far as the idea goes. It's just the boiling it down to a little bit more of a clear topic for each one specifically would improve them and would allow you to elaborate more easily because then every time you take a sentence you're saying, is this sentence supporting what I'm trying to say? Here's what I'm trying to say, and then as I'm writing, is it supporting that? Like, does this support that or is this something else? Or is this relevant? Like you might need to have an establishing paragraph where it is like, okay, what